get the right page. Be good. On the journey to Emmaus. In this 7-week season of Easter, we meet several people who encountered the risen Jesus. Today we meet Cleopas and his nameless wife or friend or whatever, who are walking from Jerusalem to their village of Emmaus, some 7 miles away, as I mentioned earlier. So it would be a bit like walking from Napier to Bayview, and a bit further than walking from Artify to church. So it's a long enough walk to get some good talking and thinking done. Their heads are bowed down, their feet are trudging along the road. They're talking perhaps the way people walking side by side do. Occasional bursts of conversation. Do you remember how? But what do you think about? Stretches of silence as each absorbs what the other has said. And then a stranger walks up behind them and doesn't pass them as they might have expected, but stays with them. Of course, we know it's Jesus, but they are kept from recognizing him. By what? We wondered as we reflected on this text. Perhaps their grief prevents them from hearing. Perhaps they cannot yet bear the weight of the news. Perhaps they're not yet ready to tell the story truly. What if they'd just recognised Jesus straight away and gone about saying, "Oh, hi, Jesus. Yep, the women were right. Yep, Jesus is risen. Isn't that great?" So what? But no. That's not how it goes. There is work to be done before the good news is truly good, grounded, embedded, worked into their very being. So they tell the stranger the whole sad story. Are you the only one who hasn't heard about what's been happening this weekend? This reminded me of this last week. One of my friends didn't listen to or watch the announcement about our move to Alert Level 3 from Alert Level 4. They felt like they were the only person in the country who hadn't. And so we can imagine these disciples asking, "Are you the only one who hasn't heard what happened to Jesus? How he was a great prophet, how he was condemned to death. He was supposed to be the one to save Israel. How some of the women were even saying they'd had a vision of angels who said he was alive. And even some of the guys we were with said the tomb was empty, but they didn't see him. We can't make a bit of sense of it all." Jesus listens patiently and then says, "Oh, for goodness sake, haven't you been paying attention to anything in the prophet's words all these years? Let me tell you." And the scriptures unfold before them. Remember, they don't yet know who the stranger is. As the disciples walk along listening to the stranger's words, we can imagine resonances being set up in their minds, familiar texts shining with new meaning as their hearts absorb what Jesus is telling them. They needed to hear the whole story, so that they could build the good news of Jesus being alive and risen on the foundational story of Israel's journey with God. We all need a foundation of prior knowledge on which to build our new ideas, our new hopes, our new concepts. And we all need to tell our story, to have our story heard before we can fit it into the bigger story. People say that to hear new music or look at new art, we need to have at least something familiar to hang our hearing or seeing on. In my first year music class, one of our assignments was to listen to a piece of 20th century music. We had to listen to it 10 times so that it would become familiar and that our foundation for listening would be both broadened and strengthened. And so as we go into this new normal from level 4 to level 3 and to level 2, We need to build on our foundations, our knowledge, our trust. So as they approach the disciples' house, Jesus, the stranger, seems to be going to go on ahead of them. This is the moment, the time for them to offer Jesus, the stranger, the hospitality that is expected and which they want to offer. They want to hear more, to know more, to find out more from this man who is strangely stirring their hearts. They press him to stay, and finally he agrees. They sit down to eat together. Then the stranger reaches for the bread. They wouldn't have been expecting that. He takes it, blesses it, and breaks it, and gives it to them. Then their eyes were opened. They've recognized him, and Jesus vanishes from their sight. In that moment of true recognition, their sad and hard hearts are warmed. They know that he is risen, and not even stopping to finish their meal, they set out helter-skelter for Jerusalem.